Hey y'all, I've got a really interesting ink to show you today. This is the Atramentis Fuchsia that I've got in here. And as you can see, it's a pink ink. It honestly looks a little bit like I just filled my pen with Pepto-Bismol or something. It's a really interesting looking ink because it's very opaque. It's not like the dark transparency that you get with most inks. It's bright and it's cloudy. So really interesting look in the pen if you've got some kind of a demonstrator like my TWSBI Eco here. But a few other things that are interesting about this ink are it's a document ink, so it is permanent and water resistant, and we will be testing the water resistance in a minute. And according to Goulet Pen's website, you can actually mix and match different De Atramentis document inks to create your own colors, which is interesting. And after trying this ink, I think I want to try more De Atramentis colors, and who knows, maybe I'll mix them and create my own color. There's a lot I really like about this ink, so I'm excited to talk about it. And there's some things I don't quite love, but it's still a really good ink. So we'll talk about all of that. So it has a really good flow, not too wet, not too dry. It feels very even as far as the flow is concerned. And it feels very smooth too. I feel like my pen is a little smoother than usual with this ink for some reason. So that's cool. Let's do a quick writing sample and then we'll talk about dry time and shading and all that kind of stuff. So here we go. Okay, so this is a quote from Brian Doyle, his novel called The Plover, and it's a great book. I loved this book, and I actually love Brian Doyle in general. He's amazing. There are actually two Brian Doyles who have written and published a lot, so it can be tough to tell them apart. But this is the Brian Doyle who is also an essayist, and he's from Portland. But he wrote this book called The Plover, and it's basically a high seas adventure story with a lot of interesting things that happen, a lot of interesting characters. And it's just also this very lyrical, beautifully written examination of the ocean. And so this little quote says, "We love most what we must have, but can never have. So on we go, west and then west." So that phrase west and then west is something that pops up in the novel quite a bit. The main character is done with people, doesn't want to be around people, so he gets in a little boat and just sets sail west and then west. He doesn't really know quite what he's looking for, but he's looking. And so I think that and this quote, I think it really kind of sums up what a lot of us feel, or probably all of us, where we're looking for something and we are in this constant search and we never quite arrive. But maybe it's okay that we never quite arrive because, kind of like that cliche goes, it's about the journey, right? The journey matters more than the destination oftentimes. But I think it's also something to be careful with. Us in the fountain pen world, sometimes we can go west and then west with our pen collections, just keep acquiring more and more, never quite finding what we're looking for, right? And so I think that there's a good side to human nature where we're constantly pursuing what we love and what we're passionate about. But there's another side where we can get a little bit obsessive, and we should probably be a little bit careful that we don't go overboard. No pun intended, since it's a ocean book. But anyway, so let's talk about this ink. I'm still struggling with my camera to get it to show you colors properly, so it might look a little bit darker than it actually is. But I will try to fix that as best as I can in post. So it is a very pink ink. I didn't quite know how brightly pink it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit more nuanced, a little bit darker maybe, but no, it's very vibrant, very pink. It's not quite like a baby pink or bubblegum pink, but it's getting there. It's just really pink. So a little too pink for me. I think that's my only thing about this ink that I don't really like. Just, I'm not huge on pink. Purple, I love, but pink, I just don't know. I like some pinks, but writing with it for long amounts of time and filling pages with pink just doesn't really appeal to me that much. But if you love pink, you will love this ink because it's a great pink. Yeah. But I do love how it writes, how it feels. It's a really well made ink. And I'm excited to go down the De Atramentis rabbit hole a little bit because I want to try more. I want to try some colors that I think I'll actually gravitate toward more. Let's do just a quick little dry time test, nothing super scientific. I'm just going to do some little squiggles here and then smear it and see what happens. So let's see, let's just do a couple little things here. Let that sit for a second. Okay, wow, pretty quick drying, honestly. So that's nice. It's not going to sit there wet forever and ever. And it's water resistant as well, and we'll test that in a second. So lots to like here if you're into quick drying inks and permanent inks. So shading, there's not a ton of shading. I wouldn't really call this a shading ink, at least not in a really dramatic way, but there is some. I don't know if the camera's picking it up or not, but for example, right here, the vertical line on the T is darker than the horizontal line. So there's a little bit of a range of color, but it's not like some shading inks out there that are really dramatic, but there's a little bit. So there's no feathering. It behaves really well as far as that's concerned. And I'm going to move my camera really quick and I'm going to look at the other side of the page. Okay, I feel like my camera is just failing right now. I'm sorry, I'll try to figure this out later, but maybe there's just, you can ever so slightly see the ink on the other side, but that's pretty normal. That's not a problem. There's no bleed. So that's fantastic. All in all, it's a really, really well behaved ink. So let's go ahead and do a water resistance test. Okay, so here's my little spot where I test my inks, and I recently started a new one, which is why there aren't that many there. And so over here, as you can see, this is from another video I recently did. This is the only ink I've tested so far, so that's why that's the only one that looks weird. Also, I turned up the brightness on my screen or on the camera, and I brought it closer to the window, and I turned off my lamp, and I feel like you're getting a more true color of this fuchsia ink now. Yeah, it still might be just slightly brighter than it's showing you, but that's much better than before. So I think I'm figuring this out finally. All right, so I've just got my little ink syringe here with some water in it. I'm just going to squirt a couple little drops on here. Whoa, that was huge. That's fine. Okay, and I'm just going to let those sit for like 5 minutes. And then I'll come back and take a look at it. Okay, now let's see. Wow, yep, it looks pretty dang permanent, but I'm gonna soak up these droplets really quick. It's not working. Here we go. Paper is a lot more absorbent than cloth. Go figure. Okay, well, the lines are certainly intact, very intact. That's really nice. Just an ever so slight amount of ink came off the page, but hey, that's not bad. That's really permanent. So yeah, it's all around just a really nice ink. A+ on permanence and flow and even color. Even though it's not my favorite color, it's still a nice, vibrant color that, yeah, just everything with this ink seems pretty well formulated. Okay, so that pretty much covers it. One last thing I wanted to show you is my newly cleaned pen. I just cleaned it out, and it looks really good. I had the ink in there for a couple of weeks, and as you can see, there's no staining, really, and it was fairly easy to clean. I was worried since it's a permanent ink, and it's a brand I've never tried before. I was like, man, is this gonna gunk my pen up? But no, it was really easy. I just used distilled water, no soap or anything, and it came right out. So yeah, if you like the Atramentis inks and can recommend any other colors to me, I would love to know what your experience with them has been, what your favorites are, because I would like to try more of these. Thanks. Talk to you later.